able.
Any lingering effects of the ankle?
Oh yeah. Yeah, he's got some swelling. It's not a great sight to see, but he still says there's strength in it and he wants to play.
Do you monitor his minutes in a situation like that?
Yeah, I will. Yeah.
How much are you scoreboard watching at this point? You've passed Dallas in the standings, though there's a couple of weeks left. Is it something you actually pay attention to at this point of the season?
Yeah, we pay attention to it. We haven't scanned it out. Under 10 games and under, usually we have the girls in the office start putting out who's going to play whom and how it looks down the stretch. Usually not for the other conference, but for ours.
When you look at the other conference, it looks like a pretty tight race now between Chicago, Boston, Miami's still in there. Does one scenario or another favor you? Do you care who wins the East or how they're ranked?
No, I think the East has been, upset prone. I think Boston went through 3 years ago, but it's been pretty upset prone. We've been upset prone in the West here too, and you really can't count on it. But you want to finish ahead of people in both your division or your conference and theirs in the East.
Last time you're going to play Kurt's team tonight. Is it a different team than the one that played you so well back in December, or is it pretty much the same?
It's a little different. They've had a couple changes in lineup. Flynn's back. He wasn't playing in December. I don't know, was he fourth or fifth pick in the draft? Sixth, maybe. He was out with a hip injury or hip operation procedure that he went through. Martell Webster wasn't on the team, a great shooter. Also, a high school guy that came out same year I think Andrew came out, and he's a top 10 pick. So, there's a couple guys that they have on their team that makes them a little bit better as a basketball club. They're playing high energy, high velocity offense.
They're a team that sort of acquired wayward former lottery picks, guys that haven't necessarily panned out in other places. Is that a good way to build a team if you're kind of a young team that's going to lose a lot of games anyway?
I'm not in that field of building teams. I'm in the field of coaching them and trying to get general managers to build them the right way.
Does it become hard to coach?
Well, I think those are kind of drop-offs rather than acquisitions. I just think that this, so it's not been really a plotted out procedure at this time. So it's a little bit haphazard.
You guys did a much better job on Kevin Love in the second and third meeting than you did in the first one. Did you make adjustments after the first meeting?
Well, we kidded Lamar about, this is a guy you played against all summer. You should know how to play him. And, he got after it a little bit. The second meeting was, really a terrific night for us defending against him, and we had a great night as a basketball team. But, this guy pursues balls. This is not a team that shoots really well from inside the arc. Outside the arc, they're a pretty good team.
Are you surprised he's been able to sustain those rebounding numbers over a long season the way he has?
Yeah.
How's he doing it?
Effort.
Is that simple?
A knack. He's got great knack. He's got great hands. He's not a great leaper, and sometimes you don't have to be. You just have to. Paul Silas was not a great leaper, and he was a great rebounder. So those things are more about timing, knowing the angles, plotting out how to get there, and guy turns his head, you work on him, and you get position.
There was a fear prior to the season with all these top players going to only a few teams that would hurt the league. But do you think the league is more top-heavy than it has been, or do you think the parity is good? It seems like there's 6, 7, 8 teams that have a chance, which you might not have been able to say a long time ago.
Well, I'm trying to think back my time in the West. There have been pretty good teams in the West over the period of time I've been coaching here in this conference. The first year we had Sacramento, we had a struggle with Sacramento in the 8th spot in 2000, 99, 2000. So these are meant to, this conference is, everybody migrated out here, it seemed to be in the late 90s. And, through the acquisition of players, teams built, and they got pretty good in the West. The East has been down for quite a few years, actually. They haven't had more than 3 or 4 teams, and this year is the year that they've got now 5 or 6 teams that look like they're pretty solid, and they're going to have really good rounds in the first round of the playoffs.
Looking
When you
even
look
more.
at this-
Go ahead.
When you look at the standings in the West, is there a particular team that would concern you more facing the first round than the others?
I would obviously say no. You just have to. You just have
And
to
would
go.
you mean that when you say no?
Definitely.
Do you want to finish second and avoid, say, Portland? You always have a tough
No.
time up there.
No, not an issue as far as that goes. I just think, seconds gives you home court against the next round.
Is Bynum's knee an issue?
Yeah, we watch it.
Because he mentioned yesterday that he still has fluid.
He has swelling. He has swelling that develops, but we try to, stay in touch with it. And he's not out there getting numbers by playing extra minutes. At the end of the game, he came out of the game the other night with 3 minutes to go, 2.5 minutes to go, and it was not a done deal, but it's time for him to come off the floor. It's time for Kobe to come off the floor.
His knee was drained several times last year during the playoffs. Was this the same type of
No,
fluid we're talking
not the same thing. It's not quite that level of irritation, whatever going on.
There are some jobs that just seem to eat coaches alive. When Kurt was looking at the Wolves job, did you think that was the right fit for him, and do you think he'll be able to prevent from becoming one of those guys where the job just eats him up?
That's a good question. I have a coach on my staff, Jim Clemens, who was, had an opportunity in Dallas, and they were a team that was top heavy with young talent. Just couldn't find a way to play together, and that was, the one opportunity that Jim's had in the NBA, and it's kind of a warning, as effective as, knowing the franchise, knowing what the purpose is of the franchise. In this situation, it was a new owner, Perot, and that was difficult for Jim at that time, and of course, then Mark Cuban came in and changed that whole franchise around. This situation, Minnesota's coming off a kind of a devastating loss of Garnett, and they brought in new personnel to replace Kevin. And, the purpose seemed to be right. The words were said that were like, we're going to build a championship, we're going to build toward it. And I remember the commercials even during the game last year, wasn't it, about how to build a championship with the general manager, the whole bit. And then, there's nothing spent. They still have a payroll that doesn't reflect that idea of going after, So it's hard to measure that, the words with the action. So it doesn't look like they've really acted that way. They've acted towards, accumulating young, raw talent, which is hard to coach.
Do you think it's crucial for the league
To answer that question.
for the league to find a way to keep these superstar players in their cities? Like, when Kevin Love has a good year, or Blake Griffin has a good year, the first thing is, when is their contract end so they can go to the Lakers or the Heat or.
Well, I think you build a team around the players, and if you do that the right way, players stay, and they stay. Utah kept Stockton and Malone for 17 years or something. I don't know how long those guys played. 15 years, I think they played.
Seen more.
16.
150.
It's a ton of games that they played together, and as a consequence, you have an opportunity to build a team when you have players that want to play together and work together. And there's no reason why franchises like Portland or Oklahoma or places that are not major metropolitan places can't have good teams that are built around players that sustain the direction that an organization wants to go towards a championship.
Shannon's shooting percentages have been steadily dropping month by month. Is there anything you've noticed in particular that might account for just the struggles compared to the beginning of the season?
Yeah, the people understand that he can hit the three-point shot. They're putting him into drive a lot more.
Right.
Shannon has kind of a unique setup. Takes him a little time to get it off. And in that process, people are trying to jump him a little bit and make him get active and get him off his spot.
How does he need to adjust to that in terms of changing?
Well, we've always talked about getting the ball out of his hands a little bit quicker, getting to it a little bit quicker than that, and the anticipation, knowing where to go and the direction he has to go in that process.
I guess as far as Kurt goes, what signs have you seen of, I guess, their improvement or getting on, since he's been there? I mean, getting towards, if they've got a plan.
Uh-huh. Well, you just look at their team. They had two guys that scored 20 points each. I mean, that's in itself kind of that's what teams are based on. You have to have two guys that score, three guys that go, that next guy can be either a, playmaker or, bounder, defender, or whatever the next stop is you need defensively. Having had teams that have had those type of personnels in Chicago with Pippen and Jordan, and having Dennis Rodman in the backdrop getting 15 rebounds and defensive plays, you can get by with two scores, not all the time 3 or 4, but Minnesota has that. But they're so young and they've played such little time together that they're still making mistakes of accumulated mistakes of turnovers that just kind of rack them. But you see the development in obviously in Love. You see the development of him. Last year, people were complaining about the offense they were running. This year, their offense is like prolific, and they're scoring, and they're doing the things that, in a flow offense. Now the team has to play together and find a way how to do defense is the next step.
Kurt seems like to have an approach sort of like you do, kind of not hands off, but not, that he's not in there having to feel like he has to motivate them, that he has to really police them. Does that work with the younger team? Will he have to adapt it all, or how do you think he's handling that?
I think he's had it all right. He's got some young guys that are, assisting him, Martin and Bickerstaff. I think the young guys that are, of that age group that can stay in the faces of these young guys and keep motivating them about their personal play. I think that helps out a lot. So coach can attend to what has to be attended to, and that's like the general disposition of a team.
Did you have to adjust your approach a little bit, like when you first arrived, your second tour here, 06, 07, that team being relatively younger than some of the other ones you've had?
I think I had hair back then that was a little more prolific on the top of my head.
Did that play in your coaching?
Yeah, it did. I mean, we had some unusual characters on that team, and bless them wherever they're at.